Share. Post to your profile. Share via email. Report story. Luffy smiled at the sight of the orange-haired girl quietly sleeping in his arms as the moonlight nicely touched her white skin, making her look like some princess from fairy tales. For some reason, he couldn't close an eye ever since they got in bed. Might have been because of his pounding heart that seemed louder than an explosion in the night's silence. Might have been because of the thousands of thoughts that wouldn't leave his mind. Anyway it was, he was, strangely, enjoying not being able to sleep. That way, he could enjoy having her in his arms at its fullest. He never really thought about it before, but ever since he started figuring out these feelings, he reached the conclusion that this love, beautiful as it was a pain in the ass. Well, if anything, he was happy that Nami was the one who he fell for, if falling in love was really necessary, as some would say. At that very moment, a painful thought crossed his mind and he felt like it cut off his heart and brain. I wonder, did Ace ever fall for someone? Did he even have the time to? The thought of his lost brother would always occupy his mind and, as much as he tried not to, he would always fall into a bad mood for the day. Tightening the grip around Nami, he forced those thoughts away. The past was in the past and he knew he couldn't live the rest of his life constantly grieving the loss of his brother. He the thought that he, after he'd become the Pirate King, had to go with Sabo visit Ace's grave. For that reason, he became even more eager to find the One Piece. He looked again at the orange-haired girl sleeping in his arms and placed a light kiss on her forehead while whispering those words he hoped he could say to her someday. I love you. Asterisk. The next morning, Nami was the first one to wake up as it took some time for Luffy to fall asleep, so it was natural for him to wake up late. Nami could tell that it was still early in the morning as there was only one ray of sun that hardly pierced through the forest surrounding them and entered the room they were in, while nicely making Luffy's sleeping face shine. She smiled at the sight of her captain slowly breathing with a small smile on his face. She wondered what could he be dreaming about. Lifting one hand up, she crossed her fingers with the pitch-black hair that made such a beautiful contrast with his white skin. Lowering her arm a little, she placed her fingers on the small scar under his left eye. That scar has always been a mystery to her as Luffy almost never talked about his past and, truth be told, she had never even asked him about that scar. She always thought of it as an attractive aspect about Luffy and she also considered that if she ever found out where he got it, it would lose its charm. Luffy slowly opened his eyes and his heart started beating as if he had just run 10 kilometers when seeing Nami's face so close to his and when he felt her hand on his face. The orange-haired girl quickly took her hand off of his face and blushed in embarrassment but smiled when the raven-haired boy took her hand and placed it back on his cheek. Huh, Luffy's hand, it's so warm, was the only thought that crossed her mind at that time. She was surprised to realize it just then, but for a guy that can easily break walls of stone with his fists, he had, oh, such gentle hands. They were again too close and the desire of kissing each other that both tried to oppress only grew stronger with every second that passed. After they were about to kiss just the day before, they both tried to create some distance between them and yet they were brought back together like two strong magnets. And yet again the, anyway small, distance between their lips was closing, while their hearts felt like bursting out of their chests. They were now so close that only millimeters separated them. Nami froze once again and closed her eyes, waiting to feel Luffy's lips touch hers. In her mind, she was scolding herself for not doing anything to stop him, but she knew very well how much she, too, wished for it to happen. She didn't want to stop him, but the kiss never happened. Instead, Luffy placed a light, so sweet, kiss on her nose and grinned when she opened her eyes, confused, but with her heart filled with the nicest feeling ever. That gesture the raven-haired boy just made filled her heart with so much warmth that she couldn't, and didn't even try to fight the impulse of hugging him close, putting all of the strength she had in tightening the grip around him. She was blushing while giggling as her captain buried his head in her neck and ticked her soft skin with his nose. She loved him. She loved him so much, and she wanted him to know. She really wanted him to know. Was it alright if she told him then? Promoted stories. You'll also like Wings of the Grand Line, One Piece X Mail R.49.2K 2.1K and Quad. Could these people bring justice to my home? And Quad. After barely escaping his homeland, YN wandered the Grand Line, searching for those who could help him right. 3D2YA One Piece Fanfic, 374K 6.3K Luffy stumbles upon Nami by chance on a small island after the crew was separated at Sabayati Archipelago. The two decide to train together, but then comes the warm, weird Goman, Captain 53.3K 1.6K Book 1. No regrets, right? It's been 2 years since the Battle of Marineford. 2 years since the Straw Hats were separated. After taking off from Amazon Lily with Law. One Piece. The Raptor Pirates soar 1.8K 27 Cerberus. D. Rex. Once a young child in the East Blue. On an island where all he does was train and train, basically a martial art island. But his heart wasn't in it. Sanji's Siren Song 2404. What would happen to a siren in love with the cook of the Straw Hat Pirates? Will it be a love story or a grim fairy tale ending? I have only watched the live action Luffy's Jealousy 73.2K 1.5K pairings. Luffy x Nami. What if the infamous Mugiwara crew docked on an unknown island? What if Nami had forgot memories of the Grand 5.3K 252 1. Piece characters reacting, the amazing, hilarious, and tear-jerking moments from the story and their fandom, like edits, fan arts, ship, and more. The people awoke. Good morning, Nami, he then giggled, making the orange-haired girl smile even brighter. And this is one hell of a good morning, she thought while laughing. Good morning, Luffy. Sabo's shout made the two look towards the door that had just opened. The poor blonde man froze with his hand stuck on the doorknob, trying to think of what he should do. Yo, morning, Sabo, Luffy cheerily greeted his bigger brother, making Nami blush in embarrassment and hide her face in his chest. I'm sorry to interrupt, Sabo hardly spoke while trying his best to keep his laughter in. Breakfast's ready, he then said with a sly smile while closing the door after him. Now left alone with Luffy, Nami finally made the courage to lift her head up from the raven-haired boy's chest and look him in the eyes with her face burning red. I don't think that I have ever been into such an embarrassing situation, she then declared while whispering. She didn't even know why she was whispering. Why was that embarrassing? Luffy asked while tilting his head to the right. The orange-haired girl smiled at his innocence and then stood up. It doesn't matter. Now, let's go eat food, Luffy yelled while jumping out of bed. I'll go take a quick shower and then change. You can go ahead if you want to, Nami said before entering her room. Asterisk. The cold drops of water wetting her skin didn't help her heart calm down. She looked at her hand that she touched Luffy's scar with and smiled. It has been such a beautiful morning that it almost felt like she was dreaming. She really hoped for everything to be like that. Every day from then on she wanted to wake up feeling his hands wrapped around her multiple times. She wanted to wake up and laugh with him like they did not too long ago. This love thing, it really is troublesome, she said for herself trying to sound like she was complaining, but the big smile that she couldn't erase has given her away. She got out of the shower and with a white, big towel wiped her skin, then quickly dressed and entered back in her room. She was surprised to see Luffy sitting on the side of her bed. "Oh, you're ready." He grinned and stood up. "I've been waiting for you. Let's go eat, 'cause I'm starving." The orange-haired girl nodded while following Luffy out of the room. Her heart started beating fast again. Even though she knew it wasn't much, she was moved by his gesture. Even though he was hungry, he still didn't go without her and, "Hey, it's Luffy we're talking about here." "Luffy, Nami, good morning." Koala greeted the two as soon as they entered the dining hall. Of course the sly woman made poor Sabo spit everything out, so she had found out what happened not too long ago. "Morning." Nami smiled, a little bit embarrassed. She had a feeling that the sly orange-haired girl knew what happened that morning. "G-morning." Luffy grinned as well as he took his seat and started stuffing his mouth full. He really did miss Sanji's food, even though there weren't many days since the storm that separated them from the rest of the crew. "We just found out that our ships met up with your crew, but that's all we've got for the time being." "We're waiting calls from both your comrades and ours so they can fill us in," Sabo said with a smirk on his face. Neither Nami nor Luffy could tell why the sly smile until the blonde man continued. "I was going to tell you that earlier this morning, but taking in account the events that occurred, I thought it could wait." As he spoke, Nami's face grew red while Luffy kept eating, not understanding what his brother meant. "Well, that's all just because he didn't find the situation embarrassing at all. If anything, he was glad that he didn't have to bother to tell Sabo about it as he saw them." "Well, anyway," Koala interrupted, trying to break the tension that formed. "Luffy, Sabo, why won't you go hunting after breakfast and let me and Nami mind our business?" "What business?" Sabo thought, but still nodded, happy to spend some extra time with his little brother. Nami, on the other hand, looked the orange-haired girl in the eyes and gave her a "thank you God" expression, knowing that Koala just wanted to give her some captain-free time to be able to think in peace. "Then it's decided." Luffy grinned. "We're all going hunting. Carrot, carrot, carrot." "I have just received a call from the Revolutionary Army," Frankie said while barging into the kitchen. "Seems like everyone's here." "Good. What did they say?" "They're close. We'll probably meet in less than half an hour." "Let's just hope that Hancock will play in our hands," Usopp said before started eating his breakfast. "Yeah, if she doesn't decide to fight them alone and let us advance, then things are gonna get complicated. You should really be careful where you discuss these kind of things." Margaret, who was now standing by the door with her arms crossed at her chest, made everyone panic a little. If she was to go and tell Hancock what they were planning, it's all be in vain. "I take it from your little talk that Luffy wound up with the Revolutionary Army. And since Snake Princess is a warlord, they can't have her there." The blonde girl let an understanding smile show. "And I take it those marine ships coming aren't really marine ships." None of the Straw Hats could say anything. They didn't know what to say. "Don't worry," Margaret smiled again. "I'll make sure Snake Princess decides to let you advance and hold back the so-called Marines." "But why would you do that?" Robin asked. "It's obvious, isn't it?" "Personally, I have no interest in the Revolutionary Army. The only thing that would make me wanna go is to see Luffy. But that's not gonna work. Not with our captain. So it's fine." She gave a warm smile. "I'll make sure things work out for you." Robin stood up and bowed her head before speaking. "There's no telling how indebted we are to you and your crew. Without you people, we would have gotten lost completely. There's no telling when we would have found Luffy and Nami. And now you are willing to let us go, even though you all wanted to see Luffy." "Thank you. No biggie," Margaret giggled before getting out of the kitchen. Now then, she said for herself while heading back to her ship. I've got a stubborn princess to convince to give up on Luffy, she said then smirked. This is gonna be tough. Where stories live. Discover now.